and in the now. To learn more about this unique program and its hosts, tune into the show on the Tan Talk Radio Network.
The BCC Coupon Book will be hosting a Women's Empowerment Networking live radio show and shopping extravaganza at the Whispering Gypsy, located at 1300 East Bay Drive, Suite N, in Largo, on Wednesday, June 29th at 1 p.m. There'll be a huge sale on new and gently used apparel, and they'll be taking donations for women's hygiene products and small children's toys for blessing boxes for single mothers and children. This is sponsored by the BCC Coupon Book and Be a Light Charity. Join them in person or listen right here on the Tan Talk Radio Network.
The Republic of Pinellas every Wednesday afternoon at 4 o'clock on WTAN, Tan Talk Network, 1340 AM, 106.1 FM. Whether our topic is Donald Trump and the future of the greatest president of the past century, in my humble opinion, whether it's education, whether it is term limits, you'll hear about it here on the Republic of Pinellas on Tan Talk Network.
Are you a writer, inventor? Do you have questions about your intellectual property rights? Well, tune in every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 11 o'clock for Joy on Paper. Once a month, I will have a special guest, the writer's legal eagle, Bill Larson of Larson & Larson, who can answer your questions. Protect your valuable work. Email me your questions to patsy.radio@gmail.com and then listen in every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 a.m. right here on Tampa Bay's Tan Talk Radio Network. That's patsy.radio@gmail.com.
Show me the money.
It's the Employment Opportunity Hour with Gene Hodge every Thursday night from 7 until 8.
So the purpose of the show is to help you out there to find something that you enjoy doing instead of a job. And at the start of the show, I normally give out a formula, which I know will guarantee you to find the type of job that you want right now.
Find out the formula to an enjoyable job with Gene Hodge's Employment Opportunity Hour every Thursday night from 7 until 8 here on the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Show me the money.
Tampa Bay's Tan Talk. Entertaining and informative radio for the Sunshine State.
How many days, how many weeks, how many years gone by? How many lies, how many times will we realize? What will it take to stand up and say, enough is enough, enough is enough? Enough is enough. Enough is enough.
Sick and tired going back and forth the back with the sycophants telling me relax, go put on a mask. Whenever I ask how long will it last, another summer pass, ain't making tracks with the mandates they done passed, but harass us without the vax and they bash us until we up for the task. Can't take a seat, grab a bite to eat, hold down a job in the street, cause you need valid ID showing that the shots all done and complete. We have to meet what the CDC recommend if you wanna live free, with the ability to roam on your feet and head on out to make your own world for free. Can't believe the store on us, deny service, close the doors on us, call police, stick the boys on us, government has a pour on us, president wish we dropped dead, but I'm kept by the Godhead, tell the devil he don't get an op-ed, by the truth on the way that I'm led, amen.
All right. Hello, everyone. This is Jierra joining you live from the Tan Talk station in Florida, launching our brand new show called Voices for Change, where we will be focusing on human rights issues and interviewing many freedom fighters across all fields. And Steve, are you there?
Proud of your efforts and Miriam's efforts, because I know that you do amazing advocacy work to help so many people along the way, and to have you have a show called Voices for Change and to really make that connection with all our listeners in Florida and Clearwater and Tampa and St. Petersburg, and also live stream. We're reaching a lot more people, and I want to thank you for putting, you and Miriam for putting this together. And if you want to join in, 727-441-3000, we'll be announcing that throughout the show. But bravo. Congratulations, Jierra.
Thank you so much. And yes, my partner in crime, Miriam, is off on a freedom fighting adventure tonight, so she'll be joining us next time. But it's very important to us to bring light to a lot of different subject matters regarding basically human rights, because right now, Steve, we've talked before about the fact that, you know, there are many subject matters that can be very polarizing. You've got people with differences of opinions on politics, on medical freedom, on schooling. But the truth is, if we boil it all down, our basic human rights cover a lot of that. So that's what we like to focus on. And speaking of freedom fighters, if I may talk to you for a second about our very first guest on Voices for Change. His name is Topher. He is an absolutely incredible artist. He is a 100% independent artist. So when I read you guys these statistics, this is almost unheard of. Topher and a whole bunch of other musicians have recently completely changed the game in the entire music industry by rising to the top of the charts as independent artists, which I've never seen before in my entire life. So let me read you some of this great stuff about Topher. He is a Billboard-topping hip-hop artist and conservative TikTok star. He was born in Mississippi and started writing and performing music as early as 10 years old. He credits his musical aptitude to his father, Willie, also known as Little Willie Farmer, who himself is a veterans blues artist. So actually, Topher moved into politics in 2019 and discovered his passion for empowering and fostering positive growth in society. So some of his statistics is that he's actually sold and streamed 60 million streams across all platforms. That's 60 million as an independent artist. That's incredible. Over 1.25 million followers across platforms, and also 4 top 10 Billboard singles, including a #1 in rap. So, Steve, he's pretty amazing. I'm happy to actually know him, and I'm honored to have collaborated with him on his last album. We're going to bring on Topher, known as the Patriot himself.
I love it. I love it. Man, you are doing great stuff. God bless you, sir.
Appreciate it, Steve. And Jierra, appreciate that intro.
Yes.
It's been a long time coming, man. And first and foremost, I just want to give honor to God for everything that I'm able to do. Most people don't know I was born or had a speech impediment that I had to deal with. And despite that, he uses my voice to, you know, raise up the people and wake up all the lions out there and fight for those values that we hold near and dear in our hearts here in the United States. So it's been a journey. I just appreciate all support across the board.
Oh my goodness, Topher, I didn't even know that about you. That's incredible. And as I said on the radio before, and will say to you in person again, what you and some of the other artists have done actually was so inspiring that you have actually changed my life. Because when I knew, you know, what was really going on in the music industry and wanted to speak about freedom and stand up for what I believed in, I didn't think it was possible. And when I saw what you and some of your partners, you know, the Marine rapper DQ were doing, it actually changed my life and set me on a whole new path. So I want to thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. The boys are incredible. I look at them as my bigger brothers. They do a lot for me. They have encouraged me to help sharpen my gifts and talents. And, you know, we stay on top of each other as veterans, you know, bringing that excellence that we learned and that leadership that we got while serving for this country. So shout out to those guys, Timmer, a.k.a. the Marine rapper, and DQ for everything they're doing.
Wow.
Yes, and that brings up a very valid point here. Topher and, you know, the 2 other people that he works with a great deal, they do independent work and they do their solo projects, but they are also part of a group called Space Force. It's up on the screen right now if you guys are watching live on our live stream. And these guys are all military veterans, which I think we should give a hand for that.
Yes, God bless. I mean, that is amazing. Can I, Jierra, can I backtrack for 1 second? Because Topher, you mentioned that when you were younger, you had a speech impediment. How did you overcome that? And I'm sure at that time, maybe your confidence level wasn't where it is now, or maybe it was. But what advice would you give other people that are dealing with some sort of challenge or disability to overcome that, to be freedom fighters or to be patriotic or to serve their country or to put music on, you know, together or to help others? I mean, what advice would you give, and how did you overcome that when you were younger?
It's just many stories in the Bible, like David and Goliath. If you go back and read, David was probably one of the smallest, the runt of his brothers. You know, he had bigger brothers, but he was the runt, but he went and beat the biggest guy out there. So God can take the little, those slight imperfections, those things that you consider your weakness, and make them your biggest strength. If you allow him to use you. And I was just so passionate about music at the time that I was gonna make it work regardless. It was gonna either I was gonna improve, or you just gonna have to love me with my speech impediment. So it took a lot of training. You know, like I said, I've been doing this since I was 10 years old. So it's not what you hear today is 20 years of really working on my speech and understanding how to master that. But you know, before then, when I was younger, yeah, it was rough. You know, going to speech class, speech therapy. It was funny because I was the top of my class and one of the smartest people, but I still had something else I had to deal with on the side. So, yeah, I just learned. And when you got people encouraging you, showing the importance of your voice, and thanking you all the time, a lot of that small stuff like that, how you sound and the things you mess up on and the speech impediments, it just takes second place to all that. So I just appreciate everybody out there that's encouraging.
That's amazing, Topher. And also, I just wanted to bring to light that Topher, and on top of being an absolutely incredible artist, is truly a wonderful human being. I've had the chance to meet him and work with him, as I mentioned, as a musician. But something I've talked about on this show before is that he really took the time to mentor me, because I grew up in the actual standardized music label system. And when I decided to make the jump to being an independent artist, I had no idea how to do that. And Topher has spent many hours on the phone with me, mentoring me and helping me with all the very basic steps. And I think that's very important, Steve and Topher, just to know that out there, you know, it takes a group. And these guys like Topher, you know, he's a very successful musician, but he also takes the time to give back. And that is very appreciated, Topher.
Absolutely. You know, I've always been a big fan of not being the only one successful at the top, because it's lonely. That's why they say it's lonely at the top, because you don't bring nobody with you. So I try to bring as many people as possible, because I know, just like the military, you know, I can't, if I retire, if I do something else, I want the mission to continue. So I want other inspiring younger artists to come up and do the exact same thing we're doing and pick up the torch. I'm gonna keep fighting for this country.
Yeah. And actually, I would love to make mention of the fact that the first time I met you was at an event called Blexit, Blexit. And you are a very strong supporter of Blexit. And then actually, that's where we did our very first show together. And if you would like to give a little bit of knowledge about that and why you support that organization, I'm sure people would love to hear about it.
Absolutely. Blexit is a nonprofit organization that was founded by Candace Owens and Brandon Tatum. Most people know him as Officer Tatum. Two incredible Christian conservative political figures that we have today that's leading the movement. And the idea was just to create a message specifically for Black Americans to exit the Democrat plantation, to leave that state of enslavement that we see so often. I remember being a kid, I asked my mom why she voted Democrat. She said, that's just because of what we always did. It was never a solid reason or anything, but I decided to do my own research. And when I did my own research, I was like, yeah, this doesn't make any sense at all, given how I was raised and what we, hold near and dear to our hearts. But Blexit stands for, we like to educate people on their constitutional rights. We believe in prison reform. We believe in, just education, reforming education, such as giving school choice. We believe in community service. We believe in entrepreneurship. So all these key tools and knowledge that needs to be passed to the next generation, that is important for them in order to foster an environment where they can excel, right? A lot of times school is just teaching people to be employees and just, robots instead of being individuals. And as conservatives, one of the biggest things we harp on is individuality and self-accountability. So this is why I love Blexit. They have done amazing things, and we're continuously seeing the fruit of our labor every single day. The more people talk about it, the better we can, the more people we can reach on a daily basis.
Yeah, I love it. And you know what? I always tell everybody that it is something that everyone should look at. And if they ever have a chance to go to a Blexit event, they are incredibly incredibly inspiring and informative. And I believe that people of all different races should definitely go and get the knowledge, because it's eye-opening, it's uplifting, and you get some points of view that I've never expected to get, and it's actually very refreshing. So, and Topher, I would love to tell people that for any of you that are not familiar with Topher's music, he is known as the Patriot, and I'd love to get into that for a moment. His #1 top Billboard charting single, The Patriot, along with the Marine rapper, actually blew up. And I would love you to tell the story of that, because just in case people are not familiar with this, the Billboard music charts is like the holy grail in the music industry. It is practically unheard of before this time for independent artists to make it to the top of those charts, especially anyone singing with an actual message of freedom. And it's an absolutely game-changing accomplishment. And Topher, if you'd like to talk about the Patriot for a moment, and then we'll be happy to play the song.
Yeah, so let's define patriot, and that's what I wanted to do with this song. A patriot is a person that fervently loves their country and is willing to fight to protect it. That's it. You know, there's no political affiliation, there's no religious denomination or nothing that is tied to being a patriot. You know, and one of the things to show that you love this country is standing for the Constitution. So if you're trying to do anything that's trying to tear down this Constitution, then no, I don't consider you a patriot. But I did the song back in, I released it December 19, 2020. And the reason why I did that was I was going to a lot of rallies during the 2020 election cycle. And I was hanging out with Bryson Gray and Forgiato Blow, and then we would go walking and people would be playing music and I would hear their songs all the time. And I was like, yo, y'all know I do music too, right? Like, Topher had songs out there. At the time, I had Cruz that Terry Crews had reposted. I had a song called Everybody Hates Chris that Chris Pratt ended up reposting and sharing and befriending me because of it. So I was like, I'm just as talented, but I realized that the music I was making was not like a movement or a song that people can go out here and fight for the rights for. So I went back home. And I said, okay, I'm gonna write this song, and I want it to be meaningful. I want every line to where if you just took a line of the song, you can pretty much give a sermon off just that one statement. So I just got busy with it, and just so happened I saw Natty Dread go viral on TikTok with her acapella version of My Mother Told Me, which you hear sampled in a song. Mm-hmm. And I said, yo, that'd be dope. And so I reached out to Killer Vic. Well, actually, I just made a post saying, hey, if any producer want to work with me, just flip this beat real quick. Killer Vic sent me an email later that night. I said, that's golden. We continue to work on it for the next 2 or 3 days, got it mixed and mastered, and we had it up within like max 4, I think, lyric video and all. And I posted it. And next thing I know, the next week by Christmas Eve, it went #1 on hip hop sales. I think it was #1 on hip hop and for Christmas Eve. And I think it maybe almost went #1 on top or in all genres, but it's Christmas. It's Christmas time. So we couldn't compete against Mariah Carey. Come on, it's just
someday we will. Someday we will.
Yeah.
But also, Topher, if I may bring up, if it's all right too, that you were actually performing that song live in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we all know what happened on January 6th.
So January 6th, I was invited to be, a part of that celebration, or at least that up there when Trump was giving the speeches and everything, which he also once again told people to kindly and calmly go to the Capitol and express our frustration the right way, the constitutional way. But they took that down. But anyway, I got a phone call from the Marine rapper who happened to be there. He said, hey bro, where you at? I said, I'm sitting over here in VIP. You know what I'm saying? I was like, yeah, man, I got Ian Smith over here, David Harris Jr., all these people. I was like, yeah, I'm lit. And he was like, nah, bro, we got to perform the Patriot. Someone wants to perform it. I said, okay. So Veterans for Trump's campaign wanted us to perform the Patriot. So I hurried off and ran over there. It took me about 30 minutes because it was just so many people out there. Got there. I think right during the time of Trump's speech, or right after Trump gave his speech, we hit the stage, performed the Patriot for the first time live ever. By this time, it's been out for 3 weeks. And so a lot of people was enjoying the song, and we got off the stage. By the time we got off the stage, they had hit us and said, hey, we got to get out of here. They just stormed the Capitol, and was like, well, what? So we headed back to the Airbnb, and because of that, they was locking down the city. So we wanted to get out of the city before they locked it down at 5 p.m. So we, got in the car and started headed out to Virginia. Next thing we know, we checked Spotify because Jordan was going to play the song as we was riding because it was so epic, and it was taken off. It was removed within hours of what happened on January 6th, and with no explanation. And I kept emailing Spotify, never got anything. And then my distributor, DistroKid, reached out to me finally with an email and said they received a takedown order to remove the song from all platforms. And they said, unfortunately, this is all we have, and we can't give you any more information. So pretty much don't ask us. So I never got a reason why, but it got removed. And then 2 weeks later, I went with a different distributor, Ditto Music, and it went up no problem. But during that time when the song was removed, a lot of people were upset because we was doing 200,000 streams plus a week. And so it was really picking up steam. And like I said, it's one of my greatest songs. So you just want to see that thing grow. We ended up selling the song just as a single directly to the consumer for $25. So we sold 1,000 copies for $25 of just that song.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's really nice. Like I said, independent artists, people just now found out who you were. But that's how much people supported our First Amendment right to make whatever we want and talk about whatever we want, especially given the fact the song has no cussing in it. It's glorifying God. It's more of a unity message, and it's just patriotic. So a lot of people was kind of upset at that, and I'm to me, what they try to turn into a negative, we turned into a positive and became one of the biggest blessings of my life, and that's why we had the #1 Billboard today.
#1 Billboard, and that's
it. Jierra, let me ask you a question. You said it's one of the greatest efforts ever. Why do you say that?
Say again.
Why is this song one of your greatest efforts ever? What is the passion behind it, so our viewers and listeners out there really get a sense of the song?
Oh, if I said greatest efforts, I might have misspoke, but I will say this song to me, personally, just the way I went about writing this song, tens of thousands on my right, thousands by my side, comes from a scripture. So I started the song off with God. A lot of people don't know that. So I started off with a scripture, and like I said, each line, like I said, could be taken apart and methodically used to teach anything. And just watching people play the song when they was marching, watching people play the song when they was fighting against illegal mandates and there was shutting down small businesses, watching people play this song when they was trying to force them to get vaccines at the time, watching people just play this song when they was fighting cancer. I had one story that was so incredible. This wife of a police officer, LEO, he was shot, or I forgot, he was in critical condition for some reason on the job, and she said the only thing that kind of brought him back around to life was my song that they continuously played over and over. And each day they played the song, each time they played the song, he got better and better and better and improved. So it's like I've never had any song that had that type of impact on people. And to this day, that's all I hear people say from United States all the way to the Netherlands, all the way down to Australia, back up to Japan if you want to see it. So it's just an incredible song. If anybody wants to, I know a lot of people don't listen to rap because of what they hear on the radio. The radio is not a true indicator of what hip hop is or what rap is. So don't base what you think I make or what we sound like based on what you hear on the radio. Definitely give this song a chance.
Absolutely. And in fact, if we can, I think it would be a great time to actually play the Patriot so everyone can hear this incredible song and that it propelled you to a whole new level in your life, as it should have.
Someday I would buy diamonds with good ornament, sails to distant shores, stand up high in the prow, no dark eyes here, standing in porch for the event. Too many fallen, too many fallen, too many fallen.
Tens Suckers on my right, thousands by my side. War between good and evil, watching our fists collide. Battle for our freedom now, to the streets we ride. Flags waving all around, pages full of pride. This is where we make a stand, no more give or take. March around the Capitol, storm the city gates. Putting pressure on their necks until the truth breaks. All walls of corruption, take out all the snakes. Star Spangled Banner, got it playing loud and proud. People from all walks of life filling up the crowd. Defend the Constitution, many warriors avowed. Casting down any among us who have bucked their cow. Enough with tyranny, we come to take our country back. For all citizens, white, red, brown, or black. Return her to a form of glory, fix the bloody crack on the crown. Fetch it down, it's going down.
Someday I will buy these with good origin. Sails to distant shores. Stand up high and proud. Noble by thy steam. Steady course for the heathens. Many foemen.
My mama told me, yeah, she warned me that this day would come. I'm like my father, go to combat with the blazing guns. I survived that, then I came back to the place I'm from to face off all these haters and the battle in the place I love. You can't break me down, I'm indivisible. You still see my raps if I was invisible. But I'm standing tall, and I spit the truth. So you all appalled, cause you know it's true. They call it freedom cause the fallen troops pay for this. I love this country, doesn't matter how much hate I get. I take my colors in the battle, ain't no wavering. Cause this is for my warriors who march into the cadence. This is for the sisters working hard on the ship. This is for the brothers getting y'all doctorate. Father, yeah, taking y'all on the ship. Baby, tell me why it's off a deep Patriot.
Someday I will buy these with good origin. Sails to distant shores. Stand up high and proud. Noble by thy steam. Steady course for the heathens. Too many foemen. Too many foemen. Too many foemen.
Woo! Love that song so much, Topher and the Marine Rapper.
Yeah, that's like
Such
I said,
an anthem.
special song right there. And matter of fact, I didn't even say that. It was a lot of people that dubbed that the song that should be played right after the national anthem.
Yeah,
so
it's great.
So I was like, that's awesome that I can contribute that to the culture.
Well, hold on, guys. This is Voices for Change here on the Tan Talk Network here, downtown Clearwater, listening in Tampa and St. Petersburg and all the way across the country. If you want to join in, 727-441-3000. I want to thank Bobby behind the glass there in the Clearwater studio and Anna back in New Jersey leading the way with all the graphics that you see on there. And Topher, amazing lyrics in that song. How long did it take you to put that together?
Hours. It was one of the fastest yet most efficient songs I've ever written, because it was literally just based on what I saw every day. Like I said, the reason, tens of thousands, like when we was out marching and rallying, having a good time, that's what we saw. Patriots full of pride. We was in the streets with the flags waving all around. People from different races were there. So everything you hear in the song is literally what I saw every time I went out to any rally. I'm doing the 2020 election cycle. So I just put it into words. I just wanted people to know what was going on, that, people were exercising their First Amendment, right? And like I said, the Patriot blew up, so.
I love it. Well, I would also like to bring up a song that you did recently, Topher. And I love what you do because you're using your music to educate people and to bring messages that maybe go unheard in other ways. This is a little bit of a touchy topic, so it's actually regarding your song, Devil Wants Our Kids. And, this is actually talking about some of the stuff going on in the educational system with the kids. And one way that I like to kind of ease any horrible combat of this subject is that, again, our show here, we focus on human rights. And I was actually looking them up. And by the way, if anyone does not know what human rights is, it's actually the UN, the United Nations, adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights on December 10th in 1948. And we actually have 30 human rights that have been codified. And one of the human rights, Article 26, number 3, is parents have a prior right to choose the kind of education that shall be given to their children. That was also obviously passed by actually last year. The Parents' Bill of Rights was actually passed April 22nd, 2021 in Florida. That's the Parents' Bill of Rights, which was greatly aided by an organization I've been learning about called CCHR, which is Citizens Commission on Human Rights. And that goes into the right to direct the education and care of your minor child. And of course, DeSantis just passed in March the Parental Rights in Education, stating the same thing, that parents have the right to choose how their children should be educated. So that's a little background on that. But Topher, you have written a song called Devil Wants Our Kids, which brings that subject matter to light. If you want to talk about that just a little bit, because obviously you are a father of 2 beautiful girls. And we're going to be able to play just a portion of the song, but I'd love to hear about what obviously made you want to write that song. And not only that, it takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing. So I always applaud that, because you believe in something, you're not afraid to go hard or go home. And you definitely are getting messages out there that take some courage to talk about. So let's talk about Devil Wants Our Kids just for a second, then we'll play a clip, and then we may have to start wrapping up our interview after that.
Okay. Real quick. So I know you said it takes a lot of courage. I just think sometimes that you can overcome that when you understand that you'd rather deal with that than the disappointment that your daughters may feel looking at their dad not fighting for things that, we should be fighting for. So every day I go out here, I just know that I got 2 little girls that I need to make sure that the future is going to be protected and their rights going to be protected as women, as future women in this country. We can't have men competing in female sports. I was actually pretty excited when they banned Linda, the swimmer, from competing in female sports, because it's a thing that is very common sense. It's not a complicated issue. Men are naturally stronger than women. And the reason why we created the separate ones was to give women the opportunity to do some of the same things as men without having to deal with men, So, so when you see people like Biden saying they're going to remove federal funding from schools that refuse to let some of the girls or boys compete with the girls, it tells you just who we're dealing with. I always tell people, either you're working for God or you're working for the devil. And I just believe a lot of people that's pushing this stuff is working for the devil. And we all know that it's easier to kill something at when it's young than it is to kill it when it's full grown. Same thing with cancer. It's great. It's easier to kill cancer stage 1. Stage 4 is almost impossible. So that's what we see here. Devil's like, okay, it's harder to deal with adults, so let me try to get to the kids and distort them, get them thrown off track. So I was like, no, as Christians, as people who understand that children, there is a time and place for kids to learn things. And school is not one of those places, especially when you're 5, 6, 7. It's not a place where you should be learning about sexual orientation, because once again, sexual orientation means that it has to be something sexual. And we should be discussing anything sexual with children,
Right.
So
that's the parents' right. That's absolutely the parents' right to choose how they want their child to be educated in those matters.
Exactly. And we see the kids with the drag shows in the schools, and they just run around parading around. It's like we don't even imagine if a stripper was in the school. This would be a no-go. Like, people would obviously know it's wrong, but for some odd reason, with drag queens, it's like it's different, and I'm just like, no, it's not. It's the same. And I'm not hammering them just because they happen to be part of the LGBTQ community. It's just straight up wrong, period. And it was inspired by Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, whose speech went viral when he was in church. And and we just got to stand up for these things and stop being afraid of the truth.
Yeah, and specifically what we are talking about here, and the bill that I was mentioning signed into law by Governor DeSantis, is just protecting the education of children from the ages of kindergarten to 3rd grade. That's at least what's been passed thus far. And again, it goes back to Article 26 of the Human Rights. Parents have a prior right to choose the kind of education that shall be given to their children, including about matters such as sex, sexual orientation, and all of those things. So we can play a piece of that song if you like. It's pretty hard hitting. It's called Devil Wants Our Kids.
You can go to the doctor and get cut up. You can go down to the dress shop and get made up. You can go down there and get drugged up. But at the end of the day, you were just a drugged up, dressed up, made up, man or woman, you ain't changed what God put in you, that DNA. Here's something else I'm not supposed to say. Hey, but two genders.
Love.
Two genders.
Shout out to DeSantis, giving parents chances, signing legislation to push back on their advances, taking over campus, disseminating pamphlets. Should be age limits for discussing certain stances, like gender identity, sexual orientation. Up into the 3rd grade, man, we talking baby, crazy. Tell this I could dry her tears, she can save you. Grooming has no business taking place in education. They wanna kill them in the womb, get them out of young, put them right into the tomb. Devil want our kids, he can't have them, no. Devil want our kids, he can't have them, no. We need Jesus in the room. Parents gotta fight, lead them all away from doom. Devil want our kids, he can't have them, no. Devil want our kids, he can't have them, no.
Amazing song, Topher. And like I said, always appreciate your willingness to deliver the hard-hitting messages and bring awareness to things going on in our world right now. Well, we're going to have to bring this interview to an end shortly because we have another guest coming on. But Topher, I really want to thank you for everything that you're doing, and especially for being my very first guest on Voices for Change. And actually, I'd love for you to take a moment and tell us, you're wearing a really cool t-shirt, and I believe that that t-shirt is also connected with a brand new single that you're about to release with Space Force and a show coming up. Would you like to tell us about that real quick?
Absolutely. Shout out to my Ironclad Resolve fam. Yeah, right here. You see the symbol.
Yep. Ironclad Resolve.
Ironclad Resolve. We have a shirt called "We Are the People" and a song and video release that's being released on Friday. So please check that out. It's going to be on DCure's YouTube channel. But it's an amazing, powerful song. Another summer anthem for your July 4th playlist, or if you just want to feel the unity and the power of what this country represents. You know, like I said, as veterans, we feel like it's our duty to protect that as well on the airways. So we're just putting the truth out there and having a great time doing it, and just filling in that void. You know, I feel like everyone just got a job and a place that we need to work at, and that's what we're doing right now. So make sure you check that out. We Are the People by Topher, or DCure the Marine rapper, and we'll be releasing this Friday.
Yes, this Friday. And also, you guys have a show coming up that is sponsored or put together by Ironclad Resolve. Is that correct?
Correct. August 6th, we will be in Illinois. So if you are in the Illinois area and would like to see us live, we will be there as the headliners. So just go to my website, tophertown.com. That's TOPHERTOWN.com. And you can find my dates for live tour dates or for shows right there on the homepage.
Okay, great. And that brings up, just last but not least, please tell our audience once again the most important link where they can find your content, your music. Just shout it out real quick, the most important link.
You can find me on any platform at Topher Town Music. So once again, it's TOPHERTOWNMUSIC, Topher Town Music.
All right, Topher. Well, you are awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Steve.
Thank you so much, Topher. God bless your efforts. Thank you for serving for our country, and those lyrics are really hitting home for so many people. And I think people like yourself have to step up, because this country is being divided, and I think we really need to hear, efforts on human rights, either on shows, but also in music and lyrically. So God bless you, man.
Appreciate it. Thank y'all for inviting me on. Make sure y'all follow Voices of Change and support this new show. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Topher.
Thank you, Topher.
We're going to take it out with Olympus Has Fallen, Topher's song, and then we're going to invite our next guest on.
Hello, America. Don't it seem like we're neglected? The government gaining more power from every person infected. Not from the virus, but by the news and the politicians elected. Yet the establishment getting fed up at the rate at which we rejected. Their policies, ideologies designed to keep us divided. There's nothing good really came from in the program they provided. The rate of crime, drugs, education, and the wage gaps all wide. Under period leaders all overcrepit men like President Biden. How dare you abandon Americans left stranded out some foreign land, lost helicopter military drones. That's all because of your poor command. You say you practice Catholicism, but you won't protect the innocent. You rather have bitty babies all butchered up like venison.
All right, Topher, again, thank you so much for being here. And we're going to invite our next guest on. His name is Dan. Steve, you've spoken with Dan before. This will actually be my first time live with Dan. Just so you guys know, Dan is a licensed mental health care professional, and he is also aligned with the organization I mentioned before called Citizens Commission on Human Rights, which is CCHR, which is an incredible organization which investigates and also helps to handle violations in the mental health care system. So Dan, a minute ago, you heard us talking about, the human right of basically the parents have rights. And we were talking on the phone the other day, and you had mentioned something that you wanted to bring up with regards to something in the mental health care system. And by the way, I love that both Steve and Dan are both professionals in the mental health care system, which I think is, important because it gives them a very valid voice when we talk about the fact that we believe that there are human rights being violated in certain aspects of the mental health care system, and it does need reform. So I want to thank you both for being on here. And Dan and Steve, also, if you have things you want to talk about that. But Dan, you were going to bring up a screening process that you were mentioning that I found very interesting, and I think the public should know about.
And parents should know that they try to sell, and this became first time I remember was just before the pandemic. There was a big push for it. Then priorities have gotten sort of off from it since then. But it does. It's parents. They're being trying to sell this universal screening for mental health for youth in the school system, starting as young as third grade. And so the idea is that we should screen every single student that is in school, because that's a lot of them have some type of mental health issue, and by starting to treat them early, they'll avoid the long-term consequences. There are universal screenings for a number of health conditions and things like that, but the difference is that those things actually exist as discrete entities. You can screen somebody for scoliosis, you can screen somebody for different medical conditions with biological markers and different things that indicate if somebody has this or not. That's not true at all in mental health. There aren't any, there's no way to verify that anybody has anything. Screening instruments are typically what people say about themselves or what other people say about them. And they want to start now. What it'll end up doing is they'll have 2, 3, 4 times as many young people, and there's already too many of them on medications and things, diagnosed with these conditions, and then the parents are going to try to be sold on medicating these conditions, and the whole thing is just not scientific. It's a real risk to students.
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up because, there's definitely evidence out there. And my belief, as well as Miriam, who is not here with us tonight, but she'll be here with us next time, who definitely works very hard in the mental health care system for reform. With what you just said, I think that there's an incredible thing going on right now for the first time that I've ever seen in my lifetime, which is that for the first time, people are starting to look at the overreach of the pharmaceutical companies. And they are looking at that with regards to, medical freedom and the whole vaccination situation, and really looking at, do these entities have our best interests at heart? But it's very important to also bring up the fact that there is overreach in many different fields with regards to the pharmaceutical companies in mental health and putting people on, drugs where maybe there could be a better diagnosis. So Dan, if you have more that you'd like to bring up about that specifically.
Yeah, so that's where the screening instruments come from. Many of them are developed by the pharmaceutical industry, and they're developed because they assess people for conditions that the pharmaceutical industry, as well as the American Psychiatric Association, have determined are illnesses. There's no proof of it, but they've collaborated. So first they created the illnesses and they put them in the Diagnostics and Statistical Manual. Now they have screening instruments which largely were developed by the pharmaceutical industry to identify people that should be taking their medications. I just don't know where it would stop. On the adult level comparison, if you have Medicare Advantage, which is a lot of people have Medicare Advantage plans, you're required, I think it's every year, to have a mental health screening and to identify mental health issues in elder people. I'll be eligible for it next month myself. So it would be as if I never in my life had a diagnosis for mental health condition, but all of a sudden they're going to do a screening for me after age 65 and identify that I'm really depressed and should be on medication. The instrument they use is typically, it's called a PHQ-9. It's a patient health questionnaire. It's the 9th version of it. It's I don't know, maybe 15, 20 items. And it's supposedly, you ask the questions, in the last 2 weeks, have you felt sad? Or in the last 2 weeks, have you isolated? Or last 2 weeks, have you, the idea it's over time, but it's illogical. If my beloved pet just died, or something else has happened in the last couple of days, it's going to incredibly color my answer to all of those questions. So that's
absolutely,
it's just weak. But what would happen? I worked in that industry for a while, and what would happen is people would call up, and because they had to have this screening, somebody calls them up, some nurse goes through these items, and then, oh no, you scored a 12, so you have depression. Then they schedule an appointment with me as a case manager therapist to treat somebody that has never had a diagnosis in their life, all of a sudden answered some questions on a screening from some expert, at the end of the phone line. It's just, that's what they want to do now with students.
Yeah, and you're talking about students specifically at quite a young age, which, as we were saying before, goes against Basic Human Right Article 26, number 3. And luckily, in the state of Florida, as of right now, that was passed into law April 22nd, 2021, with the Parents' Bill of Right. And also, Steve, you are in this field as well as a mental health practitioner. What do you have to say or to add to what Dan is talking about here?
Well, I think, the work is definitely needed at this point in time. And I think, Dan, your consistent, thorough work is needed, because there are so many people out there that are misunderstood or misguided or misinformed or miseducated. And I think that it's very, very important, just like when we had our guest Topher, lyrically, he's putting out a message out there that we all really need to hear. And you're doing the same very thing with your clinical work. So, I think that, shows like this is very important to get that word out there. So I totally agree with what you're doing.
Yes, and thank you, by the way. I just want to take a moment to thank Steve very much for, providing us with this platform. He has a nonprofit organization called Chapters Rap. Is that correct, Steve?
Chapters Community Support Services. Yes.
Chapters Community Support Services and Chapters Rap, your radio, your whole radio show, and all. You have multiple radio shows under this umbrella. And myself and Miriam and Dan, I'm sure as well, we really want to thank you. And also Tan Talk. So Tan Talk is hosting us in Florida, and the Chapters Rap is hosting us in New York. And we really want to thank you for giving us a platform of free speech where we can come forward and talk about these issues that, in all honesty, across many platforms of social media and other forms of media, it's being silenced. So this is just absolutely incredible for you to offer this to us so that we can have our voices be heard, voices for change.
That's right. And I think that what you're doing, what you're bringing up, and what Miriam is passionate about too, is that you're bringing up your voice for people that may not know what really is going on and being sidetracked to what's going on in the greater picture. You brought up big pharma or pharmacological intervention. You brought up vaccinations. I mean, there's a lot of controversy no matter how you slice it. But I think what you're bringing up is the human rights and the efforts that need to be looked at, be reviewed, and be shared. And when we were talking about doing a show like this, I was all on board because I see the hard work that you both do. And now that I met Dan for the last couple of months now, it's an amazing team that can really get the message out there. So I thank you and Miriam and Dan and people like Topher and for spreading that knowledge out there that we may not have been able to do without a show like this.
Absolutely. And Dan, you brought up some really hard-hitting topics there. I actually read a book before I graduated high school. A teacher handed me a book that was written by a psychiatrist called Psychiatry: The Ultimate Betrayal. It's a pretty hard-hitting book, but it goes all into the diagnostic processes and stuff that are used. And it's very eye-opening to see, like you said, Dan, how little can be used to actually put somebody on psychotropic drugs. And not to say that that's all across the boards, and not to say that every single practitioner in the mental health care system has bad intentions or anything like that, but you always have the good and the bad in every field. And that's why this particular field is being looked at and really does require reform, because it is far too easy to put children and adults on drugs that are very serious drugs, and they have extremely serious side effects as well. So, Dan, do you know anything that is being done with regards to how to amend or handle this screening process that's trying to take effect with these young children?
Well, it's going to be state by state and probably school district by school district that's going to be the solution to it. The emphasis is the SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration, the NIH, National Institute of Health. They've both got prominent articles on their webpage advocating for universal screening. But it's going to have to happen, fortunately, at the state and local level that have to be implemented. But again, the state of the art of diagnosing is what I say about myself or what somebody else says about me. That's it. There is no other mechanism for diagnosing these conditions. And then the pressure is going to be on the parents. You're not a good parent if you don't put your child on antidepressant medication or anti-ADHD medication, so it puts the parents in a really bad spot. But the reality is, with all those medications, people are getting sicker and sicker, not better. And
what do you think the public can do to move them into action or make them feel empowered of something that they could do? Is there someone they can write to, their local legislators, anything like that you would suggest so we can move people into empowerment on these topics?
Well, some things have happened. I can't remember right now that he's still in the next House of Representatives, an older gentleman, but he forced the separation between the American Psychiatric Association and the pharma industry. The pharma industry used to pay for everything for them, all their conferences, all their stuff, to publish the diagnostics and statistical manual. But because of federal law now, they can't do that. They can't take as much pharmaceutical money as they used to. Those kinds of, both at the national and the state level, to put a check on these industries that, again, without any science to support it, are taking away a lot of the rights of being medicated against your will. That's a human right.
Yeah, absolutely.
What you put in your body, and they just run roughshod over that all the time.
Yeah, and because we are a human rights platform here, we believe in the basic human right, whether you believe in all these different things with regards to the medical field. We do believe that you have the right, and it is your right to choose what goes into your body. And Dan, I do want to thank you for being here. Steve, I think we have to wrap up our hour here. I want to thank everybody for being out there listening. And if you're watching live obviously we're live streaming. So if you guys want to tune in next week, we're at I'm sorry, Steve, it's on the Facebook and YouTube, it's The Chapters Wrap. So if you look up The Chapters Wrap, you can actually watch. We're filming ourselves. Anna is our wonderful person backstage that puts up incredible graphics and gives links to everything. We've got Bobby here, who's also backstage in the booth with me at Tan Talk. So we really want to thank you guys. We hope you'll tune in again. I have a very special guest already confirmed for next week, but Steve, I didn't even tell you who it was yet. I don't know if I should tell you right now.
We'll talk after the. I like surprises, but you know, Jierra, well done, first show in your book, in the books there. And Dan, thank you so very much for putting in your professional efforts and bringing that knowledge to us week after week. So I'm very thankful. We're all thinking about Miriam, and we can't wait to see her again real soon next week. But again, well done. And this is the show. It's going to create change, and voices going to be heard. And I'm very excited. Every Wednesday from 6 to 7 p.m. right on the Tan Talk Network, downtown Clearwater, and the Chapters Wrap with Steve Acal's Facebook page, YouTube channel, and some cable outlets, which we'll announce next week's show.
That's right. Well, thank you again, Steve. Thank you, Dan. And thank you so much, Topher. We will see you next week.
Oh.